Welcome on in to Same But Different, where we review movies every week like a book club, and we're having a blast doing it. I'm Brody. I'm here with my co-host and my brother, Derek.
Oompa loompa doompa dee dee. Look at me. I'm here reviewing this movie.
Come with me and you'll be watching us do Same But Different.
Nice. First and foremost, I just want to say that I went into this movie with incredibly low expectations.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to be anything good. And I'm happy to report that it exceeded my expectations. Because my expectations were so low, I did like this movie a lot more than maybe somebody who had medium or high expectations. You know what I mean?
If you enjoyed the movie, you enjoyed the movie.
That's
no
true.
matter what your expectations were, right? So
That's true. I just feel like there's an element of surprise in there for me too that maybe heightened the experience. I love how this movie stood on its own and it didn't rely on its predecessors to build a world.
World of pure imagination.
We were thrown into this movie and it built a world for us. It was contained. It was his own little story.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where, like, seeing the previous stuff, it'll enhance a lot of the references, but absolutely not necessary.
Exactly, sure. Even if you haven't seen the previous movies, you know, like, the Oompa Loompa song. You know what Willy Wonka's about. Like, it's ingrained in culture at this point, so you're fine.
I know, but there are little things, like even the cop's belt snapping at the end was a reference, right? Like, there are little things.
That's true.
You're blowing up.
I feel funny.
This is a magical movie that blends the oddities and wonder with human connection and a really heartwarming story. It was funny, it was sad, it was happy, it was mad. That leads into my next point. The dialogue and the quips were fast and they were witty, and I loved the forced rhyming in the songs because it was whimsical. Usually I don't like it, obviously, for grammatical reasons and like be creative, but like the creativity was in the forced rhyming, and there was so much charm in this movie, and particularly in Willy Wonka, that anything quirky like that was welcomed. I thought it did a wonderful job at keeping like the Roald Dahl isms in there. It remained family friendly. There were also elements of like, this is a terrible, awful human being. Like Matilda and the previous Willy Wonka, they did it perfectly too. I think this one just emulated that.
Yeah, it was a family movie, not a kid's movie, right?
To help enhance that, the camera work was incredible. Like, you had the wide angle lenses and some camera movements that it was used as a tool to emphasize the story and the characters. You want to use the camera as its own character, as a tool, and they did that, and it was great. Timothee Chalamet was actually incredible. I am slowly growing to love this guy with his acting more and more. It used to be monotone, mundane, boring, except for that one little role he had in Don't Look Up, which was pretty funny. But with Dune and Dune 2 and now this, I'm starting to see his range. It's impressing me. It really is.
Just pop one in and everything becomes a Broadway show.
It was so refreshing seeing him in this role. He fit right in with the whimsy. The energy that he brought to Willy Wonka as a character it just worked. He wasn't the strongest vocalist, and in a musical, we discussed this in Mean Girls, you should probably have your main character as a pretty strong vocalist. However, Gene Wilder wasn't the strongest, American Idol. He just a guy just singing songs and being quirky about it. I think he could have had a terrible voice and I wouldn't even have cared because it would have added to the whimsy. I'm saddened to see where it goes from here.
Yeah.
If we go into what we know as Willy Wonka, he turns into this cynical, bitter, tired man.
I said good day.
You lose. Good day, sir.
Yeah, that more or less hates children. And in this one, he's the exact opposite of that. So I'm very tentative and scared to see what happens. But also, there's an incredible story there if that's what actually happens.
Yeah, it's the scary part of prequels. Like, Ted just fell victim to that, too, with the TV show, because you want this main character to succeed, and then you already know he becomes Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah. Everyone did a fine job. I just think Timothée Chalamet was the outstanding character in this. The Oompa Loompa, Hugh Grant, was in it a lot less than I thought he would be.
Good.
It was a good thing too. Yeah, I think he was perfectly used. I think any more it would have been overused, and I'd be like, this is silly. The only bad thing I have to say about this is that none of the songs were memorable. None of them like were bangers, and like none of them were bops. And I can't look back. I can only think of like one line, like there's chocolate and there's chocolate. And then the song he rhymed noodle with. There's nothing memorable about any of the songs. However, when he started to sing, come with me at the end.
Yeah.
I did choke up a little. Like, that was nice. One final note. The opening number. He's singing and dancing, and magical things and wonderful things are happening. And then it cuts to the cop watching him, and he's just standing in the street.
Yeah.
And it's all in his head. How can we believe anything that we watched in this movie?
It was real to me.
I truly believe what happened, but the grandeurness of it. Like, he was probably just in a prison cell underneath the chocolatier's place, and people weren't floating so much as, like, elated, right? By his chocolate. So it's a metaphor. Like, I do think all the zonky, wacky stuff was just in his brain, which is fun because it never shows you that except that one little
pure imagination. That's what that is. I am giving this a strong, I could be convinced to give it higher. I'm giving it a strong 8 out of 10 chocolates.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who would have thought when we first saw this trailer, that you'd be giving it an 8? When I saw this trailer, I'm like, check please, pass.
Check, please.
That's what I'm saying. Incredibly low expectations for this movie. What did you think about it?
I disagree with you on some things. I did like this. I'm going to preface with, I did like this, but I feel like my review is more laden in the bad. Is that the expression?
Sure.
I thought this was a very well done prequel. It gave us a layer of this character that we actually benefited from. A lot of prequels will just be prequels for the sake of it. This one felt like we needed to know this. It felt pertinent. I thought that the ensemble of characters introduced in this movie were a lot of fun, albeit not fleshed out enough. Aside from the villains, I loved the villains of this movie. Like, it was nice that Willy was helping them out and they were all, in the same boat together, and the scrub. Aside from like, oh, here's Harold. This is what he was back in the day, and now he's here. That's all we really got.
What more did you want? Did you want their entire life story and history? And
I guess just to care a little more. Like, when we got to the points of him freeing them, I just didn't. I'm like, okay. And then it goes through what they're all doing, and it's like, this one went back to work. I'm like, okay, sure.
I feel like there's charm in that, though. That's so funny.
Maybe. They built such a good ensemble, it just felt like they missed the mark a little at the same time.
Okay.
I agree with you almost word for word on what you said about the songs. Scrub. I loved the songs. I enjoyed listening to them. And then I only watched this 3 days ago. I can't remember one. They were catchy. They were bright. I enjoyed the rhyming schemes, but they're just forgettable. Aside from Come With Me and the Oompa Loompa song. Scrub. I would say like 80%, throwing out a random statistic, 80% of the songs in this movie felt like they started and ended within a minute.
Oh, what? Okay.
Like, they just felt half done. There were so many songs that weren't a full 3 minutes or didn't have like a proper song architecture.
Sure.
Blueprint was the word. I want to remind everybody I liked this movie.
Brody's focusing on the bad.
It was just so evidently enjoyable. So I watched this by like picking it apart, I suppose.
Okay.
I think the villains, like I said, were just wonderfully kooky. I really enjoyed how serious they took being chocolatiers. Like, that alone is such an outrageous concept. They are the chocolate empire.
The cartel.
Yeah, exactly. And the scenes with them I found the most enjoyable.
He doesn't like it when people say poor.
I do have a gripe with how they ended, though. The ending, spoiler alert for this one part of the review, I'm not going to get too heavy into spoilers. Willy Wonka basically helped them escape. Yeah, they'll come down eventually, but are any of those cops really going to follow them? He helped them float away when the cops were about to arrest them.
That's fair. Well, in my mind, the magic wears off and they just fall to their death.
Okay, but they don't, because we know Slugworth is alive in the sequel. Or
I know.
Yeah, I guess you call it a sequel now. Keegan-Michael Key, always a treat. Love that man. Literally just love the way he acts. He wasn't a villain. He wasn't bad or good. He just really wanted chocolate.
I mean, he was pretty shitty.
My last really big point is Timothee Chalamet.
Here we go.
It's complicated, okay? It's not black and white as he was good or he was bad. It was so nice to see him do something like this. I won't lie. He didn't do a bad job by any means, but like you said, his voice was almost good.
Almost.
His portrayal of wacky and magical and fun was almost there.
Oh no, I thought it was perfect.
I just think he never really got there. I think with how zany everything around him was, he never really got there. Or he did at times, but couldn't at other times. The zaniness of his character didn't feel like it was a linear line. It was either zany or not. Like, I don't know. Felt too wishy-washy. I wanted Wonka to shine as the best part of this movie, and he didn't. He was good. He was another part of this movie, and he was fine, but he didn't shine as Wonka to
The
me.
villain shined for you?
I think the villains shined for me, specifically Slugworth and Matthew Baton. I don't know his character's name. The one who kept vomiting at the word poor.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to very much disagree with you on that one.
Again, I still think he did a pretty good job, and that's a huge compliment from me to Timothee Chalamet.
Yeah, that's true.
But it gives me hope that he can and will do things like this in the future. Also, I hated Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa, personally. All that being said, I did really have fun with this movie. The whole time I was smiling or like in awe of kind of what was going on.
Wow, the land of make-believe.
And I'm kind of embarrassed to admit it, but it did make me cry.
Hey!
I gave this 7 chocolate bars out of 10.
Okay, see, you talk so much shit about it, and that's such a good rating.
Well, there you have it, folks. That was Wonka. Turns out, pretty darn good.
Yeah, we love Wonka here. I think I might buy it on Blu-ray.
Let us know what you thought if you've seen it. And if you haven't, go watch it, then let us know. Let me know what you thought of Timothee Chalamet. What we're doing next week, it's weird that we were watching Oscar movies and then we took a break for 2 weeks and now we're going to watch an Oscar movie, but we're doing the Zone of Interest.
Ooh, heavy. Is everybody out there watching the Oscars? Who do you want to win Best Picture? Let us know.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be Oppenheimer.
I know. I'm pretty sure it's going to be as well. I just want the Holdovers to win.
I would cheer.
Yeah, it would be like Brendan Fraser winning Best Actor last year.
Yeah, which is now people are mad about. Get a grip. People just hate on stuff later.
I know, it's so stupid.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
All of you guys.
Speaking of that, why don't you guys like, follow, and subscribe? Oh my goodness. And come on back next week while we review the Zone of Interest and maybe have a little Oscars talk. Thank you all so much for watching. We love ya. Keep watching movies.
Fuck all y'all.